Hello, my name is Christine Lamond, and I'd like to share with you the story about how Qatar Airways allowed my cat to escape on the ramp at Kuala Lumpur Airport, how I had to go out there and chase after him and catch him, and then his subsequent death due to the stress, heat, and probably dehydration that he experienced while he had been being transported and lost out on the ramp for about 2 hours before we caught him. First of all, the experience to get the cats prepared to fly. I have 3 cats, but Fume is the cat that is no longer with me. I had to take all the cats in for vaccinations and to get their pet passports. So actually there were 4 trips to the veterinarian required for this arduous process. And so first I brought them in for vaccinations and their pet passports. Then I had one cat had to go back for a booster shot because she had a surgery and she couldn't get her booster, so she needed a booster. And then I had to take them in for a NEPA test. A NEPA test is a jugular blood draw, so the cats were sedated intramuscular, and I took them home completely sedated. They did not recover all day long. I had to guard them from falling on their faces because they couldn't walk. And then Fume howled all night long after coming out of sedation because he wasn't feeling right. He was a Siamese cat and a very beautiful, special little boy that had been a feral, and the only person he trusted was me, and he trusted me so much. He came when I called. I did allow him to go outside, but if I called that cat, he would come from wherever he was. He liked to climb up he liked to jump up on the wall, and he liked to walk around on the roofs of the adjacent houses. So he was a very physically active cat. He was very fit, and he loved to wrestle with my other cat, Jack, and they were very, very active, healthy cats. So then I had to have them taken to the state vet on the mainland from Penang, Malaysia, and that was about a 5-hour trip for them in the carrier, and that had to occur the day before I was ready to leave Malaysia. I left on September 3rd. So on September 3rd, we had to take a van from Penang to Kuala Lumpur, which was about a 6-hour drive. So the cats were not happy. They were meowing the whole entire time, and I'm certain that they didn't have anything to drink or eat during that ride because they were very distressed. When I got to the airport, they calmed down because we weren't in a moving vehicle, but I did advise the staff that we had been on a long journey and that the cats were in need of some rest before the flight. We checked in, and at 4:40, and I went directly to the gate because I was just really nervous and I didn't feel like shopping or eating. And I went directly to the gate. I wanted to charge my devices, but the gate wasn't open. They don't open the gates in Kuala Lumpur until shortly before the flights because they want you to shop and eat. So I did find an electrical outlet in the hallway, and I had plugged in my devices to charge them. And at about 6:05, I got a phone call from the person that had checked us in. And I said, "Is everything okay?" And she said, "Well, there are some issues." I said, "Are the cats okay?" She would not answer my question. She said she had a colleague coming over to talk to me. Now, I had put some scissors in I don't know why I decided to bring scissors. I mean, I'm moving, and I had the scissors to help me with packing, and I put them in the suitcase. So I thought maybe they found the scissors and they had confiscated the scissors, and they wanted to let me know that they had opened my luggage and they were going to take the scissors. So that's what I was thinking was going to happen. But at 6:50, no colleague, no representative, and no phone call had come. So I called back the number, and I talked to the woman. They had started checking in at the adjacent gate. So I was at C2. At C4 was checking in for Perth, and I was going to Doha. But Doha wasn't supposed to open the gate until 7:20. So it was 6:50, and they were checking in for Perth. And at that time, I called about 48 minutes later. I called and said, "I'm still waiting to talk to this colleague of yours." And she said, "Go into the gate and go to the front desk." And I said, "Well, they're not checking in for the gate." She said, "Just go in." So I went in, and security had me go in front of everybody, which worried me. And I got through security, and the manager told me that Fume had escaped. She showed me a picture of a bush. She said Fume had gone into the bush, and she asked me if I was willing to take the flight without him. And I said that is absolutely not an option. I'm not leaving without my cat. And I said that my cat is what used to be a feral. He doesn't trust anyone, and there's no way that he would allow anyone to capture him. And I needed to get out there right away. And it was now about 7:15, which is when the sun starts to go down in Malaysia. The sun was setting while we were trying to get clearance for me to go out on the ramp to try to catch my cat. I used to be a flight attendant for many years, and I told them that I used to be flight crew and that I was trustworthy and that I needed to get out there to capture my cat. So after the sun had gone down, the manager of Qatar Airways, myself, a security personnel, and a ground person got in a car. We had to drive all the way across the airport to another terminal because I had to take a train to get to the terminal where the flight was going to depart. We had to drive all the way over to the other terminal where I had checked in. And I got there, and there was about 10 guys sitting around. And they said that they thought they had seen Fume go under a car. So I had to kneel down, and it was very, very loud. The noise was deafening. There was absolutely no way I could have heard that cat if he had been meowing to respond to me. And I was kneeling down and laying on the ground, looking up underneath cars. And there was a forest feature across from the across the service road from the terminal. So I went into the forest and was trying to call him, but the noise was absolutely deafening. There was absolutely no way I could have heard him if he meowed. Then they found a vent that went underneath. It went into the bottom of the wall, and they thought that maybe he had gone in there, and they were shining lights in there, and I asked them if they could get in there to try to see if he was in there. So I was searching in the forest, calling him, looking around for him, while I suddenly heard yelling, and I saw my cat run across the service road with 8 or 9 guys chasing him. And I took off at a sprint and got in front of the guys, and I was yelling at them, stop chasing him, stop chasing him. And there was one guy in front of me, and I was yelling at him, stop chasing him, stop chasing him. And that guy wouldn't stop at first, and I was screaming, blood-curdling screaming for him to stop, stop. And Fume got to a low retaining wall that was at the edge of another forest feature on the other side of the service road. And he stopped. And I got up to him and I almost grabbed him, but then he jumped over the service wall and into this little forest, but he stopped right on the other side of the other side of the wall, and I caught him. He was panting really, really hard, but I held him really close and I kissed him and I told him everything was going to be okay. And we got in the car and drove back to the plane, and I brought him back up the stairs where they had his carrier. He was panting really, really hard. But I just was so glad that I had caught him, and we put him in the carrier, and I tried to put water in his mouth, and I wet him down with water to try to cool him off. And then the plane was already boarding. It was after 8 o'clock, and the flight was supposed to take off at 8:50. So they wanted me to get on the plane, and I did, thinking that hopefully Fume would calm down. And now that he was back in the carrier, and hopefully near his best friend, Jack. They were very close. And matter of fact, Fume was Jack's emotional support cat, and vice versa. They were very, very close. And so I got on the plane and I took the flight from Kuala Lumpur to Doha, thinking that I had rescued my cat. And I got to Doha immediately at about 10:30 p.m. I didn't look at my clock, but I immediately, instead of going through the transit, I went to the transit desk and I told them what had happened. And I also had twisted my ankle while I was running after the cat. I have knee problems, I have back problems. I have not run like that in over 7 years. I actually have a disability. I have CRPS in my left arm, so I have to be very careful with my stress, and I have to be very careful with my knees and my back. So I was kneeling on the ground and I was running, and I twisted my ankle because I was wearing slippers, not trainers. So I told them that I had twisted my ankle when we were putting Fume back in the carrier, but nobody offered me any assistance. Nobody offered me any ice. Nobody even briefed the flight crew about what had happened. I got on the plane and I asked for some ice or something for my ankle, and they acted like I was really putting them out. They gave me a little tiny bag, plastic bag with some ice in it that broke right away. So I wasn't even able to ice my ankle or do anything to help with the injury for the whole 6+ hours flight to Doha from Kuala Lumpur. So we get to Kuala Lumpur, and like I said, I went to the transit desk and told them what had happened, and I asked if I could see my cats, and they said no. They said that they would ask the service crew to take videos of my cats, and that I would be able to check in with customer service in a while, in a half hour to 40 minutes or so, and they would have an update on the well-being of my cats. So I went to the Qatar lounge. I had purchased a lounge pass for the 10 plus hour layover that I had. And at 11:54, I believe, I should be reading this from my write-up because I have everything documented very carefully, but I think it was 11:54, I got a phone call saying that they needed to talk to me. And again, I asked them if my cats were okay, and again, they would not answer me. They just said a manager was coming up to talk to me. Now, the last time I had to talk to a manager, the news was not good, so I knew that this was not going to be good news. When the manager got there, she told me that Fume had died. It took a lot for me to be able to see his body. It took at least an hour, and I was sobbing hysterically after believing that he was safe, and that and after everything that we had already been through, I just had a total breakdown. I was just sobbing hysterically in the Doha Qatar lounge, and all the way through the airport to go and look at his body. And that took about an hour and a half for them to bring me his body. And I did see him, and he was still wet, as though he had died very shortly after we had put him back in the carrier. One of the airport personnel said that maybe he just didn't make it through the pressurization of the cargo hold because he had been panting so hard. But it was clear that his body had not stayed warm enough for that water that I had put on him to evaporate. So, of course, I was extremely upset, and they took me back to the lounge, where I immediately wrote a letter to the tell us at qatarairways.com customer service email, and I still have not heard back from Qatar Airways. The other day I went to their chat and I told them what had happened, and that no one had responded to me, not even with condolences. So, so anyway, then in Doha, when it became time to board, I forgot to tell you that after I got on the plane in Kuala Lumpur, I went to the restroom to rinse my face off because I had gotten extremely sweaty running around, and the stress of everything out in the very hot and humid Kuala Lumpur airport. I went to wash my face, and there was blood on my shirt. There was very obviously blood on my shirt. And nobody, everybody would have been able to see this. And nobody said anything to me about it. And nobody offered for Fume to have a veterinary check after everything I'd been through to make sure of his fitness to fly. Nobody mentioned that there was blood on my shirt, and nobody offered me veterinary care for him, or they didn't offer for him to stay and fly on a later flight. They could have kept the cats in their veterinary facility overnight and given me a hotel and let me fly the next day. They didn't offer me any of that. They just rushed me onto the airplane. I didn't realize I had blood on my shirt. So I flew all the way from Kuala Lumpur to Doha with blood on my shirt, and then all the way and then 10 hours in Doha with blood on my shirt, 6+ hours from Doha to Nice with blood on my shirt. When I got to, when we went to board the flight from Doha to Nice, I explained to them what had happened. I wanted to check on my cats again before they got on the flight, because they had been in the veterinary facility for however many hours, 10 hours. So I told them, and of course I broke down and started to cry again. And they said they would check on them, and we had to take a bus way out on the tarmac. Like, it was a 10-minute bus ride. The plane was way out on the tarmac. By the time we got out there, I was nearly hysterical because it was hot, and I was so concerned about my cats being out there, and I thought I saw them on a luggage transport cart. So I asked the ground crew if they could please check on my cats. I asked to see them. They said they were already in the hold. So a guy went up and said he would take a video of them. When I got on the plane, I was crying. So the flight attendants wanted to know what was wrong, and I told them my whole story. And they were absolutely appalled at the treatment that I had gotten so far. They were so nice. The flight attendants from Doha to Nice were so sweet to me. And the lead flight attendant said she was going to write up the incident, and they took really good care of me on the flight. They brought me chamomile tea from first class, and that was all I could take in for the whole entire flight was chamomile tea. So I hadn't had anything to eat all day. And I actually didn't have anything to eat for more than 24 hours, because when I got to my house in Nice, there was no food. And I was too exhausted to go after food. So I think I went like 36 hours without eating. But so the lead flight attendant said she was going to write up about the situation. They also had the captain call ahead to Nice and ask the ground staff and a manager on the ground to meet me and help me get through customs. They did. This ground person now actually brought me to the front of the line in customs and got me through. And then a manager came and helped me collect my luggage and the cats. And he again was very, very apologetic and very, very sorry. He showed more compassion. The flight attendants and this Nice agent showed more compassion than the Kuala Lumpur or the Doha. In Doha, they would not write a report or do anything. They just said it was the problem of the up station, and they would not even write a report about what had happened, about Fume arriving dead. So, I've been in France now for almost 10 days, I think. And, as you can see, I'm not doing very well. I've been trying to find, every morning I wake up at about 4 o'clock in the morning with an anxiety attack. And I've been trying to find someone to help me get a response from Qatar Airways. At first, I just said that my emotional distress precludes me from being able to determine what just compensation would be, but I am just at the very least asking for compensation for all of the veterinary expenses. Oh, and look what they had me do to the carrier. I had to actually put this wire mesh on the carrier over these tiny little slits, and a plastic mesh on the front of the cage to ensure that the cats could not get out. But yet they did not even zip tie the carrier closed before they brought my cats outside. So I've lost track of what I was saying before I just showed you the carrier. But my arrival in France has not been a happy one. I don't have any appetite. I've had a really I've emailed so many people, and Qatar Airways especially. I opened up a case with them 3 days ago. They still have not responded. Every day I've been just working, trying to get justice for my cat. I finally found someone at Animal Law who is going to help me submit paperwork for a claim and get for a claim for compensation. And there is a case where an Air Canada flight lost a cat. I think it was in 2012, and that couple sued Air Canada for $5 million. And I'm sure they didn't get $5 million, but the case did settle for an undisclosed amount, so the people must have been satisfied with the amount that Air Canada offered them. But they did not have to go out on the ramp and chase their cat and sprain their ankle and catch their cat and think their cat was safe, and then fly for 36 hours with blood on their shirt and weep and cry the whole entire time in front of the whole public of Kuala Lumpur and Qatar and Doha Airport and Nice Airport. And so I'm going to be asking for a lot of damages. I'm sorry. So this is my story. Thank you for listening.